Hello, it's the Corruptist, and welcome back to another tier list video. Today I'm going to be ranking the different factions throughout Fallout New Vegas. And as you can see here, I've got all the factions. Well, not all of them, just the ones that aren't on the reputation meter, because I didn't feel like doing literally every faction, because literally every faction will require a whole bunch of factions that are just kind of redundant. Like, who really cares about the Crimson Caravan Company or Vault 34? Maybe some people care about Vault 34, but you get my point, right? And starting off with this list, we have the Boomers. I fucking hate the Boomers. The thing is about the Boomers, my problem with them, it's they're fine mostly. It's just that I just hate dealing with them every single playthrough. Like, the Boomers is the one annoying part of New Vegas that I kind of sigh and roll my eyes whenever I replay this game, because they're just very doing their quests is just repetitive. Like, everything about them is just repetitive, right? They're one of like the major minor factions that you have to either recruit or neutralize for the faction quests. This, like Mr. House, NCR, Yes Man, Caesar's Legion, etc. And it's I understand why they want them. I just don't really like their. I just don't really like interacting with them. You just have to do it every single playthrough, and you can't do it. It's always the first thing that they have for you to do, except for Mr. House, which his first deal is technically getting the platinum chip, but you're kind of already doing that, so yeah. I know that the Brotherhood of Steel is also one that you always have to deal with, but at least with them, it's you can kind of have like a really fun challenge where you can either you have options. You go down to their bunker. You either play their game for a little bit and then rig their bunker to blow, or you bring along Veronica, play their game a little bit, and rig their bunker to blow, and or you can just do a full frontal assault with whatever weapons or strategy that you want, and see if you got the steel to meet theirs. And that's my preferred method whenever I have a decent gun or weapon on me. But with the Boomers, you go through their bombardment, get the whole freaking cutscene where it's like, hey, I have a missile pointing at your face. Don't move. Okay, I'm here. Here, I'm going to take you over to our leader. Well, hello there, little child. I'm the leader. And it's honestly just, and they basically just want you to solve all of their problems for them. And you barely get anything in return. Like, yeah, you get the Boomer's munition guy, which is pretty good if you're like running an explosives build. And there are like a couple unique weapons, but you don't have to be on their good side to get those unique weapons, I don't think. With at least with a unique grenade launcher, Thump Thump, I think it is. I think it was called. But yeah, I don't really like these guys. They're just boring. And then even if you just straight up just keep on attacking them, they just they're so far spread out throughout their entire base that the only way to do it without it feeling like cancer is just do it in the dead of night, and then sneak attack Pearl or Loyal, and then kill the other one. And that's just boring. It's either stupid difficult because they're launching missiles at you, or it's stupid boring because nothing happens. You just get into two fights where you have the advantage. And yeah, and doing their whole quest line too, it's just kind of it's also repetitive in its own way, because you always gotta do always gotta do all their quests. And yeah, if you clear out the ants, you can give them scrap metal, but you still gotta go all the way over there. And if you're all the way over there, you might as well have either a high enough repair skill or just like repair the solar array that they've got. You might as well be doing that. It just feels like a chore, man. They just feel like a chore in like a very good game. And even in a Yes Man run, you still have to interact with them, because even then with Yes Man, you still have to at least talk to their leader before you can just be done with them. D tier for Boomers for being repetitive. Next up is the Followers of Apocalypse. Uh, I don't, I don't actually have that strong of opinion of these guys. They are pretty much just a charity organization for everyone, and they're surprisingly far spread out across the wasteland. And they're pretty cool. They help people. That's about it. They have a couple of quest lines attached to them, but I don't really interact with them enough to get that big of an opinion on them. C tier. Good Springs. B tier. The thing about Good Springs is that there's not really much to do with them, but I do kind of like it. It's just this nice old town full of old people and farmers where you wake up in the start of the game. They're good enough as a beginning good faction, as a bit of a setup for the choices that you can make and for the region. Caesar's Legion. I think they're kind of an A tier faction. They are surprisingly deep. Like, on the surface, they're just kind of these Roman LARPers, right? They kind of just look like they're a bunch of Romans, these bunch of raiders that are LARPing, and as Romans. But you look a little bit deeper into them, you find out their backstory, you find out, oh hey, this entire nation can be rooted back to this one guy who has an intelligence less than a mole rat. And that's kind of hilarious. And they're for sure definitely an evil faction. They crucify people, they enslave people. I don't think that, pretty much a lot of their legion, they're a bunch of misogynists. I don't think that Caesar himself is a misogynist, but I think that his teachings probably got corrupted somewhere along the way when his legionaries interpreted it. But yeah, but other than that, they kind of have this whole Roman aesthetic, which it's kind of cool to see. Kind of cool to see how they got all these football gears and whatnot, and it's kind of funny how they are a very dominant faction that would probably have won if the courier hadn't did anything, and they're just running around beating people with machetes. Their main proficiency is melee combat, and they're beating a modern army. That's kind of hilarious. But yeah, A tier. Though I will say, doing their quest line, it's alright-ish. It feels a little bit undercooked. A lot of things with the Legion are a bit undercooked. I kind of wish that we got the full content that was planned for them, where we could see more Legion villages and towns and stuff. But as they are, I gotta give them A tier, just for being a fun faction. Very, very fun, very. Freeside. B tier. The thing about Freeside is that there's a lot to do with Freeside, and Freeside kind of encompasses a whole bunch of factions within it. Like, there's the Kings. Everybody loves the Kings. I honestly think that that if you do not like the Kings faction in Fallout New Vegas, that's a red flag. But and there is a lot of quests that you can do in Freeside. You can gamble. You can help homeless people. You can beat up homeless people. It's fun. But overall, they kind of don't really have too much. Freeside itself doesn't really have so much identity. It's just a whole bunch of factions within it that make it up. Like, there's the Followers base in there. There's the Kings, as I mentioned before, and then there's the Atomic Wrangler and the Silver Rush, and there's Mick and Ralph. But overall, I think they're pretty alright. Brotherhood of Steel. B tier. Brotherhood of Steel? Actually, no. C tier. The Brotherhood of Steel are a less egregious version of the Boomers. And the thing about that is that they're a bit repetitive, but at least there's options, At least there's at least there's options that you can do with dealing with them. Right? With the Boomers, you have to sit through you have to run through a bombing field, and you have to sit through a cutscene. But the Brotherhood of Steel, you can either full frontal assault to deal with them, or you can submit to their strength and be a slave for a little bit, and then get on their good side. or you can bring in Veronica, and she can vouch for you to get in to their bunker, and then you can do whatever you want. The thing is about them, they're also kind of repetitive, is the fact that half of the main quest lines, your only option is to destroy them. The only option is to blow them up or rig their turrets to kill everyone, or just kill every single one of them yourself. And only in NCR and Yes Man do you have the option to, like, maybe recruit them, not do that. But the problem is, they are a very long and boring sort of... the quest line to do that is very long and very boring. It's just back and forth, down into the bunker, down into the second layer, or back up, back out. Oh, go do these random spots across the map, go back, this, that. I've never done the full quest line before, and I'm not sure if I will. Maybe if one of these days I do like a character-specific run that would make sense for it. Maybe. I don't know, though. The Great Khans. A tier. They're a bit of a drug runner and a raider faction that is in the New Vegas, and I kind of think they're alright. I like the cut of their jib. They're a faction just like the NCR that's been around since the very first game. Well, actually, they've been around before the first game. They've been around before the NCR, because the NCR was established in the second game, and they were there in the first game. So that's actually kind of cool. But yeah, they are. They're a pretty fun faction, I'd say. They have some pretty cool quests. They're involved in the main quest because a couple of Great Khans help Benny kill you and whatnot, and then if you go along the intended path, you trace your steps back into Boulder City, and you confront the Khans that were helping Benny, and it's pretty fun. They're pretty fun faction. And then with their quest line, the only quest line that they're really involved in, besides Yes Man, who just has everyone, is the NCR, where you got to either wipe them out, or you recruit them, or just get rid of them anyway. And that kind of has a lot of options that you can take, and they're kind of tragic because the only ending that they have where they actually succeed is the one where they kind of just leave, and that's a bit sad, honestly. It's a bit tragic, but I mean, misery. Everyone loves a good tragedy. Next up, the NCR, B tier. The NCR, they are the thing about the NCR is that they look, on the surface, they look like the very good faction that everyone should be going for. Every moral, upstanding person should be going for. But then you look deeper and you find out all this stuff about, corruption of the government and exploitation of the people and all these different things, and it kind of goes, damn, the NCR aren't really all that. But even then, and even still, even at their lowest, they're still probably the best faction, the most goodest faction, like of the main four of the paths that you can go through. But I don't really have much to say. They do have like a shit ton of stuff, and I haven't really scratched the surface of all their different quest lines. I know that there's like a lot, like one where you drag a soldier's corpse back to their main camp so that he can be sent home in a casket. And then there's like some fun quests like the bounty hunting quest where you kill the fiend leaders and whatnot. But mostly they're just kind of the authority, and mostly they just kind of are there. I don't really have too much else to say about them. The White Glove Society, C tier. These guys are a less egregious version of the Brotherhood of Steel, in which case they only really have one thing that you can do with them besides gambling in their casino, which is always a plus. Actually, up to B tier just because you can gamble. Just because you can provide gambling. That's enough to get you into B tier. But yeah, they are they have these, they're the only quest that they have besides Caesar recruiting them is Beyond the Beef, and that's a whole cannibal plot. And although that it is pretty fun when it works, that's the only thing you can do with them. And I can imagine that if every faction said, "Hey, go investigate the White Glove Society," I can imagine that getting pretty old pretty quick. Yeah, just so less. They're just a less of a egregious version of the Brother of Steel, which is in turn a less of a egregious version of the Boomers. So yeah, that I think that simplifies my thoughts exactly. The Strip, another B tier. They are Freeside, except except there's more spots where you can gamble. They have more gambling in exchange of less actual identity than Freeside, because with Freeside, there was all these different factions and stuff, but then in New Vegas on the Strip, there's the Omertas, there's the Tops, and there's the quests that you can do with them, and then there's like the Vault Hotel, and then there's the other hotel, and then there's the NCR Embassy, and then there's Michelangelo, and that's about it. It kind of feels like there's less to do in the Strip, despite there being probably more on the Strip than in Freeside. I'm not quite sure about that, but they're all right. Novak, C tier. They're just kind of good springs, except you don't spawn in with them, and they have, I think, less memorable characters. I know that Boone is a very popular companion. I know that a lot of people really like Boone, but I don't really have companions in my runs so much, and I don't really ever, although I do Boone's like initial quest where you find out who sent his wife over to slavery. I don't really interact with him much after that. And another thing that I don't really like about Novak is that it gives you the "Come Fly With Me" quest, which is a quest that I kind of just don't like at all, just because it's one of those quests that just feels very monotonous for me. And then we have the Powder Gangers, S tier. Yeah! Who won the lottery? I did!